we are learning in public. Podcasting is an art where you're always learning in public.
Yeah. The thing is that we do get caught up. At least it happens to me. Like, I'm going to be honest. I want to say the smart thing. Like, I want to talk in a way that is like, oh, wow, like that sounds so good. And then you end up like just saying the same canned answer that you heard somewhere else. And you end up like trying to make your words sound pretty. And I think that's how we end up with the 16 word answer to like a simple question.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to like break all of that, because when I started at the beginning, I wanted to like, I was a fan of Tom Bilyeu, and I wanted to like go do the deep research and like have all the perfect questions. And like I was trying to emulate my mentor and like try to do things like him. And then as I progress on my podcast and I have more and more interviews, I'm going the opposite direction. I'm like, I don't want to have anything planned. I don't want to even know. And I believe that that's how you found, like, just like me telling you about my dad. Like, I had no fucking idea I was going to talk about that today. Not at all. Like, that was not even, like, that's not even something that I think about on a daily.
I prefer conversations like this than I do the scripted podcast. Yeah. I don't listen to any of the scripted podcasts because I have an opinion that there's more depth and more real raw content in these kind of podcasts. Yeah. So I prefer these type of conversations, and all my podcasts on mine are the same, right? The similar thing. They're real raw stories. Yeah. But I always make sure that there's actionable insights for the audience so that they can implement it in their life. Yeah. And I call them out on the show. Yeah. And I think that way I know that then, because I do have and I'll have to question this belief, that I do have a belief that if you're listening or you're reading something or you're watching something, that unless it's just to chill out, there should be some form of implementation on the back of it. And I just think that's a nice thing to do.
Yes, I agree with you. You should definitely keep doing that. I think where I'm finding myself in my journey is I need to not do that.
Yeah.
Just because I need it.
Yeah.
I needed to keep it fun, to keep it light.
Yeah.
I think it's me breaking away from my day-to-day job as a producer on someone else's show that is very well thought out, and Tom is trying to impact people, get them to change their thinking and like empower them, and it's like an amazing thing that we do. And then over here, I want this to be a little bit more like another side of myself, finding stories. Like, I don't want to be in self-development. I want to do an interview with you today, and tomorrow I want to have an interview with a rapper, and then with like a boxer.
Yeah, you don't want to be pigeonholed to it.
Yeah, I want to explore. I want to find the stories. I want to just talk to people. And I was curious, like I had a couple questions for you. Like with your podcast, you said you had done like over 150 interviews?
150, over.
Wow, that's amazing. Like I'm closing on 70 interviews, so I'm like almost halfway to you.
Congratulations. You once you got past 20 episodes, you're in the top 1% in the world.
Yeah, is it that so?
It's because most podcasts do not get past that point.
Yeah, it's difficult, man. It's difficult, like, because people probably think, oh yeah, you have a podcast, you have a lot of money, and like you have your YouTube channel, and like you make no money on this thing until later.
Podcasting is the perfect art of delayed gratification. It's a perfect epitome, because, and Chris Williamson says this, you can't monetize a podcast effectively. Most people, I'd say 99% of people, can't monetize a podcast effectively until they've done 150 episodes.
So 150.
150 is the point where you can start attracting decent level sponsorship. Mm-hmm. Then from 150 to 300, you're just finding your gears, going through the gears, and then you get the perpetual motion. Look at Chris Williamson and what he's achieving with podcasting. Mm-hmm. He's done 600 episodes. He deserves it. He's pumping out 3 a week. The dedication. You've got to look at what the people, to get to 600 episodes, you can either do 1 episode a week, and it can take X amount of time.
Yeah, because that's 50 episodes a year.
50 episodes a year.
Jesus.
So you can either get there in 12 years.
12 years, fuck.
Or you can get there at 3 episodes a week, and you can get there a damn sight quicker. Get there in 4 or 5. So we need to
do more episodes, Frankie.
So it's like, you got to pick. I've realized in life you have to pick the game you want to play, look at the game, look at how other people are playing it. You know, Tom Bilyeu, for example, he's got a couple of episodes a week going out on his impact theory, and he's got a couple of episodes, and he's got health theory and other stuff like that.
Now we mix them all. So
Yeah.
we went through a phase of like 3 different shows.
Yeah.
And then we realized that people don't really see the difference.
Yeah.
So we combined them back to one. And now we're doing one episode a week, because we're about to launch this massive video game that the company has been working on for a long time, and it's coming out. Like by the time this podcast comes out, the video game is probably going to be out.
Yeah.
So Tom has been like, the way Tom does his podcast is shy of amazing. Like, he only works on the podcast like such a short amount of time compared to everything else that he's doing. And to me, it's sad because he doesn't get the credit or the visibility on the other work that he's doing on the studio, because people know him for the podcast, but they don't know like the iceberg underneath that and everything that he's pushing. Like, we have 50 employees, we have teams all over the world like working on this video game, and like
He's also got educational platform, hasn't he?
we have Impact Theory University, and that's another thing that he's doing.
But he's constantly in the studio filming content, right?
We film as much as we can book people. So depending on the week, sometimes we shoot 2 times a week.
Yeah.
He takes a lot of time prepping, and that's one thing. Me seeing him prep for so long, I'm like, I don't want to prep at all. I want to do the opposite. So it goes to my style.
And it all depends on your life path and way you want to move as a podcaster and way you want to move. Like, you know, some people need the prep because perhaps if he didn't prep, he perhaps couldn't ask the questions he wants to ask.
Yeah, for him it works.
But maybe me and you have a natural ability to ask the questions that resonate. So maybe we don't need as much prep. There's no right or wrong answer.
There is not.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, you have to be true to yourself. So with your episodes, like, what have been some of your favorite interviews that you have done that you can think of?
Well, here's the beautiful thing about it, and I realized this because I've been asked this question before, and I realized it. And it's not that it's a bad question, but what I realized was I was just about to say an episode that was my best, that I perceived to be my favorite and best.
Yeah.
And then I realized that every episode along this journey has come to me at the right time, and I've learned so much about myself or my ego or what I just every one of them is important to me because it's come to me at the right time. And I now I'm at the point where I can't go, oh, it's this guest, because that does a disservice to all the learning and all the stuff that's gone on this. I can, anyone can go on YouTube now, search the Frankie Lee podcast and look at all the amazing guests I've had. Some massive guests on there. But to pull out one and to say this is the pinnacle, it's not, because Ryan, I remember I had Ryan Terry around my house, a famous bodybuilder in the UK who's with Gymshark, and I had him and he taught me some stuff. And then I had the founder of Reebok on the show, and he came around my house in England and taught me loads of other stuff. And then I've had people involved with Gymshark, and I've had, people involved with high-end e-commerce brands, and I've had Justin Waller on, had Justin on.
Yeah, Justin was interesting.
Yeah,
for sure.
Interesting. He's got a different view of life than me, and that's okay.
Yeah,
Do you know what I
same
mean?
for me. Like, we had our disagreements, but I love the guy. Like,
I've got nothing against any of the guests.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that to pick one out, I think would do it a disservice. I think there's so much more to it than just one episode, one guest.
I do have a favorite. I have a favorite
of mine or of yours?
Of
yours.
my show.
Yeah. Go.
And you'll probably get to this one day. I had my son on my podcast.
I actually saw that. I saw that you had him on.
Yeah.
If I had a son right now, 100% that would be my favorite episode too.
Yes.
The only thing close that I could imagine that would be doing a podcast with my niece and nephew. And I said to my sister the other day, I'd like to do a podcast with them for every year of their life now until they're in their 20s.
You should definitely do that. I did one with my son and with my daughter too.
Yeah.
And it was so funny, Frankie, but it was awesome. Like, in that moment, I was like, I'm living the dream. Like, I get to sit here and have this talk with my kids, and this is going to be invaluable.
Is because you can ask your son, you're like, how he's feeling. I know your son does jiu-jitsu.
No, that's not. If you saw the jiu-jitsu one, that's another kid that I had on. That is a fighter. So that kid, that's Eli, the future.
The
Eli,
9-year-old.
He's 9. Yeah.
Yeah.
My son. I need to show you my son.
I thought that was your son.
He had like a flower shirt.
Right.
That's the fighter. That's Eli. So Eli is he's ranked like top MMA fighter in the US for children, for like his category.
Yeah.
As a 9-year-old. But no, I had my son Abel. So we did a film with my brother. And then we had the podcast with Abel, and we talked about like our experience doing the film together and his YouTube channel, and like it was very interesting to, you know, it's like one of those that you do for you, that you know, lad, this is not gonna get any views. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't need it.
No, it's like
it's there's so much more to podcasting than just simply views.
Yeah.
That people don't see. And can I tell you, I did a podcast with a guy called Adrian Portelli. It's one of my most downloaded episodes. It's done 200,000 on YouTube, and it's done hundreds of thousands on Apple and Spotify. But I would have been happy getting 1,000 views on that. It was just an extraordinary episode.
What was his story?
He earns 60 million a year with zero.
Yeah, I watched that one.
With zero employees.
Yeah, that was crazy. He was doing the giveaways and all that.
Yeah. And now, would you think that podcast, if objectively as a producer, would you think that podcast would be the one that got the most views?
Not at all. I was surprised because I went to your channel and I started watching a few just to get ready for the interview, and I saw Sadia, Justin, and then this guy. But like, I remember he had that line at the beginning that says, "There is no ego in business."
Yeah.
And I think because you added that to the teaser, that's my assessment as a producer. Your teaser was great.
Right.
It was about money. It's a young guy making millions with no employee. So it's like a unicorn type setup. Yeah. And then he said that business, there is no ego in business.
And also he started to, what I've found is you can record podcasts with guests and they can sit there for ages, and then they can just take off later down the track because the guest goes and does something big. Like, for argument's sake, you know, it doesn't bother me that Sadia goes on Impact Theory or goes on Lewis Howe's podcast.
Well, that helps you
because it helps me, right?
Yeah, you get suggested views.
Because I get suggested views. I get thousands more views because they're on these bigger channels than mine. Doesn't bother me. That a lot of my guests I've discovered early, way before the bigger podcasts have had them on. So I always get trickled down because I get to them early because I got my finger on the pulse a little bit more than a lot of the bigger podcasts have. Yeah. Because because I truly love the art, and two, because I don't have to be a researcher to know what works well with this thing. And it's just like we're in a constant learning environment. But it's been.
How do you find your people? How do you get to your people? Like in this case, because you're twice the episode count from me. How do you get people to come on your show?
I think, one, I don't do canned messages. I like to send voice notes or emails that are personalized or this, that, and the other. And I like to frame it how I want, what I want them to get out of it. You know, what ask yourself, what do I want? What value can I give this person? And then try and give them way more value than even you can think you can give them. Try and give them that value, and that's how to get people to come on your show and get people moving. It's no different from what you're doing. Do you know what I'm saying? Like you're on the right path. You've done 70 episodes. If there's someone out there that wants to start a podcast, the first thing you should say to yourself is podcasting the best medium for me? Is it the best medium for me? Because you may be a better writer. You may paint beautiful paintings. You might not be the speaking communicator. 90% of the podcasts I listen to should not be podcasters. They're not podcasters. They're not voice communication, vocal communication. This art that is podcasting isn't for them.
Do you think you can get better at it, and maybe
you can get better at it, but you'll never get to in the top 5 of a country. You know, and for argument's sake, I've been in the top 5 in the UK. I've been in the top 5 in Australia, and I've been in the top 5 of another load of other European countries.
Wow.
And I'm yet to break into the top 200 in America.
America's hard.
But America's hard.
Yeah.
But you have to build up the velocity and learnings and lessons and guidance before you step into the American market. You know, don't forget, how did Tom do it? Tom cut his learning curve down because he exited a company and then paid to shortcut his learning to get to the top. He could pay for acquisition of guests, not guests.
But he didn't. So he started at Quest doing the interviews.
Yeah.
When he was still at Quest.
So he was learning whilst he was getting paid from his business, and but his exit event gave him enough liquidity to be able to back himself, because he's done enough reps.
Yeah.
To be able to back himself with the right studio and the right thing. And sometimes that you might not be able to start like that.
Yeah. Well, the way he started it was a different landscape when he started. So he started Impact Theory 6 years ago, and I think Inside Quest was maybe 1 or 2 years before that.
Yeah.
So 7 years ago, 8 years ago,
he fell in love with the medium of podcasting.
Yes. Also, there was no other major podcasts available on YouTube. And then he came out of the gate with full-on studio, TV quality. So that was his competitive advantage.
Cut through, yeah.
It was high production and amazing guests.
And now we've got people like Stephen Bartlett and people like Chris Williamson that have raised the bar again.
Yeah.
That arguably in the podcast space at this moment in time are doing some of the best production.
Yes, but what we have found, and I go back and forth with this all the time, and even with my brother, there is a threshold that you get diminishing returns, where you can keep increasing the production quality,
but you don't get any more. Yeah.
You don't get a return on that. Now, that to me is debatable, because you have the branding element that is unquantifiable. So this is Lisa Bilyeu and my... We go both back and forth with this, because you cannot quantify the fulfillment or happiness that someone gets out of looking at a beautiful image.
Well, you should simply do it the best you can do. With my podcast, on every episode, I'm just trying to produce the best content I can in the time that I'm in.
Yes.
And they have the resources that allow them to produce a totally different level because of the resources that they have, and that's great. And if they want to produce that level, that's phenomenal. Like, that's phenomenal, and it's a gift to be able to do it. And it's just, all I'd say to anyone out there who wants to do a podcast, me, you, or anyone else, is just do the best that you can in the time that you're in, and that applies to every area of your life.
Yeah, I have had to accept that I need to be okay with a good level of quality for production, because I come from film. So for me, I would shoot it in 4K. I would light it different. So I would need this camera, that camera, this light, that light, this. So then I get bogged down by the pursuit of high production value. And then you look at Joe Rogan, he has like 2 ugly cameras, and it's just like this, and it's the top podcast in the world. It has no production quality. So then it's like, does it really matter? So my brother is the one that keeps me at bay with like, yo, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It's quality. It's quality of conversations. It's you know, what we're shooting in now and the quality that you're putting on here and the production value of this is more than good enough to take you to the level that you want to get to.
Yeah.
And it's just about being kind to yourself when you're on a journey like this.
Yeah.
You know, we can't compare ourselves, because Tom's been on a different journey to us and made money vastly more money than we have in business, that allows different conversations to be had. Same with Stephen Bartlett. Same now with Chris Williamson, with some of the sponsorships he's got, allows that production quality. And when our time comes to be where we can choose to do that, we'll choose to do that.
Yeah.
And if that's our choice, isn't it? But it's like, you can't cheat the reps that have to be done to get to the level. They've done their reps, they've earned their stripes, and that's why they deserve all the success and all the abundance that they're getting from it. And all me and you have to do is do our reps and do what we need to do, and we can do similar things in whatever version of Axel's way or Frankie's way, and it won't be a copy of what they're doing, because it'll be our own flavor of a similar narrative that we're trying to spin for ourselves. And that is what life is all about. It's not about the comparison. We can all compare. I could sit here for hours and tell you, oh, the great things about Tom, and you know, I'd love to do that like Stephen, or I'd love, oh, the way Chris Williamson started with the same way as I did, 600, 700 episodes now, with a Yeti desk mic in the middle of a table. The difference is he started 2 or 3 years before I started. That's the difference. And he's put out more episodes. That's the difference. Yeah. We can all get to everyone that loves the art can get to the same level. It's just like, are you willing to play the game for 10 years or are you not?
Yeah, and enjoy it. I think the biggest thing is enjoying it. And I learned this from my brother a lot. Like whenever he does he doesn't give a fuck. Like my brother is like, I love him for that, because I'm more neurotic and I overthink, and I try to strategize, and like I try to make sure that I'm making the right move. And if I do this, it leads to that. Like I'm trying to play chess all the time. And then my brother is the balance to my neuroticism.
You need that.
He's more like, yeah, just like, let's enjoy it. Like, let's do it. Like,
just enjoy it. But the key word being, enjoy it.
Yeah. And I'm getting into that mode, frankly, like this year.
To do it all without enjoyment is you are wasting life. You know what I'm saying?
I'm learning how to do that in life and just go with the flow a little bit more. That's very hard for me to accept, like being honest. And I need to flow into that too. I can't go all in on that.
Perfection holds you back from your ultimate success.
But perfection is also what drives my hunger for excellence. So I can't let it go completely. I just need to
know where to apply it.
Yes, know when to apply it, and know when something good is good enough. Because beautiful things also come from you pushing and having unrealistic expectations and saying, no, it has to be better, it has to be better, it has to be better. I don't want that to ever go away. It all depends on what phase of your life or your journey in that venture you are. If you are being bogged down by you don't have enough volume, then forget about the complexity. Make it as simple as possible. Get it out as soon as you can. If that's not your issue, if you have the volume and the momentum going and now you're wanting to step it up and move into excellence, that's when you start moving towards getting better equipment, better technique, all of that.
So I'm moving towards now in my journey more of I've been a traveling podcast with decent level of production, but in order to have it even to this level right now, or to go beyond this level, I need to have a regular studio, a regular place, a set down environment. I'll probably either end up putting that in LA or Dubai. I haven't decided yet, but that's something I will build LA, to make.
Put that in LA.
But you know what I mean. Like that's something you've got to do and got to accept. There's going to be a cost of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what do you see in the future, like for your next 150 episodes? What's the vibe?
Just enjoy it and just try and every week get 1% better. 1% better. Learn from people like yourself that are working on top podcasts. Have no ego about it. Understand that there's people out there that have vast knowledge in the space. I mean, one thing I've learned recently is the fact of like, you know, why am I trying to talk to these potential advertisers on my podcast? Why don't I just give an agency 20% and just let them handle the whole stuff? Because I'm not as big as a you know, I don't want to have an employee like Tom does to deal with that, or like Stephen, or like, you know, Chris Williamson. I just want to be able to hand that off. And at my level of the game, when I'm trying to come up in the game, the sponsorship money would help, but not if you can't manage it, not if it's costing you time, and it's not my game. Mm-hmm. So what I've learned is play games that you're the best at. You play those games, and the games that you aren't the best at playing, the editing, outsource it. The studio, outsource that. The sponsorship, outsource it. Outsource what you're not good at, and focus on your core key skill, i.e. book guests, record podcasts. That's my game. In the next 150 episodes, I'm going to try and get to that 150 next reps in a lot faster time frame than I got to this first 150. So if I'm in a place like LA or Dubai, I could get to 150 reps in a year.
Yeah, because you can do 3 a week. Yeah. because that's what it will take. It will take 3 episodes a week. So the booking side is brutal. That's the hardest part, because even for Tom's show, it takes us months to get people, and the higher you move up, the harder it becomes, because those people now have 20 other commitments that are way ahead of having a sit down conversation with you. And it's a big chunk. Like today, we're probably going to spend like a couple hours here talking, plus whatever time it took you to get here and the time it took us to come here and set up and all that. So it's a huge time commitment. But the beautiful thing is that
there's 12 hours in this.
Yeah. But I heard this from someone, I don't remember who, but this got me to like prioritize making the podcast. I remember this one guy that said that when you put out your content, you're actually contributing to your immortality. You're putting your thoughts and ideas on people's heads at scale while you sleep. And it appears to people that you never stop working, because our brain cannot differentiate between watching a video and having the conversation once you listen to enough. This interview, people will listen to it. And the weird thing is, the same way that other people have influenced us, now we're influencing other people.
It's the thing I love about podcasting and this medium is it's leveraged work. I like everything to be leveraged now. That's why my business is all online. That's why, I don't have any fixed locations. So it's why the podcast,
you move everywhere.
Because the podcast I can have episodes 60 odd could be listening and healing someone's mind right now, but I'm not. But the energy I put into that is recorded and encapsulated and captured in time, and it just works. And it works like an asset. It goes to work every day. Media and code. You got to think media and code. How can I get media and code to work for me every day?
Yeah, I'm on the media side, so I'm trying to get that work. I know that you have your app, like web software thing, the removal. Tell me about that. Like what's the offer?
It's contentremoval.com. Simply this: I remove online content for mainly celebrities, brands, influencers. And people that are facing any online content, so images, videos, search results, fake accounts, YouTube videos, all that kind of stuff. We remove it from the internet for people at scale.
So you go and hunt down, like if someone takes my podcast and they start taking clips or pieces of it and putting it on their show.
We could remove it, but I have a lot of people that pirate my show, but I just let them do it because it actually helps me with exposure. They're actually doing work for me. They're workhorses for me. Anyone that takes my podcast, cuts it up into clips and throws it on their account, I couldn't care less, because them getting views just puts my face more out there on the algorithm. Mm-hmm. Just use it. And in fact, I encourage it. Steal as much as you want.
Do you think it could be of damage if they start cutting one piece with another piece and like making you say things that you didn't say?
Yeah, of course. And if things like that do happen, we can remove it.
But the risk of that is very
low. But in the grand context of things, obviously I will protect my intellectual property and protect my assets where I have to. But if someone's just cut a clip that's inspirational to them, put it on an Instagram account, I'm not going to go after them.
Yeah, I'm starting to get that now. I think because the podcast is growing, now I'm getting people all the time. Like every week I get like a dozen people sending me clips that they made for my show, and it's so fun. Like it feels so good, because you're right. Like they're doing work for you to help you.
And also there might be a 16-year-old on the other side of the scale that's using your content to improve his editing skills. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to stop that, because my whole podcast is to encourage people to move forward, to move their life further down the track. So I don't want to discourage that. That you got to be mindful of the fact that, if that's a source of inspiration to them and then they're cutting it in, I think that's a great thing. I think it's a phenomenal thing.
So now with the company, tell me about starting that, running that. How does that change your whole perspective and you moving from carpentry, boxing?
So I was at this reputation management company, and then I wanted, because I was such a good salesman there, I wanted to obviously get a bit of a buy-in to ownership of the company, and it just wouldn't happen. So I fell out with the owner, long story short, because I wanted a way to not just earn money, earned money that was taxed, to actually have a piece of ownership. And when I was on a call to a client at the time, who was a big brand, they said to me, it changed my life again. They said to me, Frankie, rather than burying this content with reputation management, wouldn't it be easier to remove it? And I said to them, what do you mean content removal? And they went, yeah, why can't it be like content removal? And I was like, content removal. So I went on to GoDaddy and I typed in content removal, and contentremoval.com came up, and it was $650, and I paid $650 for that. But that domain name's worth 50, 100, 200 grand now. It's worth a lot of money. It's an aged domain name, and aged domain names that rank really well, especially for keywords like content removal, are very valuable. So the domain name alone is worth, a lot of money to me. And I've registered it for like 20 years or something like that, so it's my property. I've locked it up. It is what it is. But I basically thought, right, I left this company because of that fallout, because I wasn't going to get paid. I thought I can sell anything now because I've learnt the art. And what I realized is I should go into this content removal thing. So I built a one-page website on Wix, content removal. There's no AI back then, so I had to type out what content removal was, and, rewrite a few bits of other people's content around similar people that are doing things in the world, the biggest websites. Made this Wix web page with a chat on it and a mobile phone number, and slapped that on the internet. And then I cold emailed and DM'd celebrities. I realized that after a few days, I did a few, took on a small few removal clients, like reviews and all this kind of stuff. And then I was learning on the job, because I didn't know how to remove content. I was learning, and I was taking on jobs. And I realized these people are too small. Like I want to deal with big fish. So I became the content removal brand that looked after celebrities and brands. And I just went to everyone in the top of the fitness industry, and I started to tell them I could remove this content and do this and do that and do this. And I started to sell them deals, but I sold them yearly deals. So inside the first month of content removal, I'd already signed $500,000 worth of yearly client subscriptions in three clients.
500,000.
500,000 US in three clients. I was looking after, at the time, I'll tell you two of them. One of them I was looking after, no, in fact, I can't tell you that one. I was looking after like a big brand called sweat.com as a corporate client. And that client alone was paying me $132,000 a year.
And what did the service entail?
Removing content that damaged their brand. So fake Instagram accounts, fake web pages, fake content of their guides that were sold online. It took me 3 or 4 weeks to sign this deal. But this deal changed my life, because I didn't even know how to remove content.
Then you went and figured it out afterwards?
So I figured it out afterwards. So what I did to sign the deal, the first deal I ever did for 132 grand, what I did was, they gave me 11 pieces of content. I said to them, if I remove 5 pieces of content for free, that unlocks this contract. Is that a deal? Shook on it, signed on it. So I knew when I removed 5 pieces of content that it unlocked 132 grand. And I did that with every client I ever worked with. So I had proven removal. So I got them to give me 5 to 10 pieces of content. And I said, when I remove 5, it unlocks the contract. And that's how I did it. That's how I scaled it. That's how I moved forward. So inside a month to 60 days, I had 500,000 committed.
Okay, I'm in the wrong business. I need to start removing content.
It's a lot more difficult than people give it credit for. Don't forget, I went relentlessly after those 5 pieces of content to unlock that contract. And when you get to 4 pieces and you're struggling on that 5th piece, and you keep going, you're like, when the day that piece dropped and it unlocked that 132 grand, I was like, this life changing again, because you've just gone from earning top end 16 grand a month as a sales guy to now 132 grand in one lump comes into your bank account. You see what I'm saying? Life changing. And that's online business. Everyone should be moving towards doing more online.
Yeah. I definitely need to move into that. I think what keeps me is I get really excited with things really quick. And if it was up to me, like my brother tells me all the time, okay, this is like the 13th company that we want to start. So I struggle with that. So I need to stay in content. And that's where I'm putting my bet on content. So we want to start a distribution company and we want to distribute films and market them, acquire films, market them, put them on platforms and distribute that. And that's how I think I'm going to build my massive wealth that would allow me to make films and do all of that. Because making movies is a very complicated business and it gets trickier every time.
Yeah.
Right now we have the writer strike, the actor strike, the streaming companies are fighting over each other. Apple and Amazon are pumping money into content because they don't have a real business model. So they don't need to make money with their content because they have their other business, and that's like an advertising spend for them. So that makes the whole system go out of whack. And I don't know what the future is going to be for media. You have YouTube, kids don't watch movies anymore like they used to. So it's very complicated, but that's where I'm
I would argue that YouTube is the goat and always is going to be the goat now. I think it's moving towards it.
Yes, but there is a user behavior that they haven't been able to crack yet. When you want to watch a movie, where do you go? When you want to watch TV, like where you sit down with
Yeah,
your
you're probably
girlfriend
going
at
to go
night.
to Netflix, aren't you?
Yeah. So Netflix has that user behavior on lock, and YouTube it's a different beast.
Hasn't got it yet. But I have bought movies on YouTube and watched movies on YouTube.
I have.
But I think it's a very expensive way of buying movies. When they make it a lot cheaper, then
Yeah.
I think it could be the everything app for video.
It could be, but there is something in our brains that when we go to YouTube, we're not thinking of a TV show. And the way the app works, it wants to give you short bursts of entertainment. Or now they're with podcasts, what they have discovered is the passive listening where you just hit play while you're on a walk or driving or whatever, and you're doing a different type of experience. But most people don't even watch the phone when they're listening to our podcast. They just like play it in the background. So it's tricky. And
It was a weird decision for me when Spotify put video on their app. I just didn't see what sense.
yeah,
I-
do you use it?
No.
Because I upload my podcast to Spotify. You can upload the video, the same video that you
Yeah.
upload.
Oh yeah, 100%. You can upload it, but it just takes a lot more time. It's a lot more time consuming, and when I surveyed my listeners, it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, for me, I'm doing it as a just set it and let it be. I have no listenership in Spotify or audio whatsoever. Like I have no downloads. I haven't paid attention to that either because I don't listen to podcasts anymore. I watch them all on YouTube.
Yeah.
So that's something.
And
that,
you've gone YouTube first. I mean, I do have a big listenership on Apple and Spotify, and my listenership on Apple and Spotify is arguably bigger than YouTube. But my YouTube is growing at a phenomenal rate now. I feel like I've started to get some momentum with that.
Do you make more money on the podcast side than on the YouTube side?
No, I make more money out of YouTube than I do out of the podcast.
And your YouTube is smaller than your podcast. So imagine when you double your numbers on YouTube.
Well, so here's the thing: what I've learned with podcasting, podcast sponsors invariably will pay more CPMs for the listenership on Apple and Spotify. But then there are other companies now that just want the clips as well from the YouTube video of their brand. So it's like it's
competing.
I think you got to be as big as you can be on both.
100%, yes, and not let any money on the table on either side.
Yeah.
I do believe that in the future there will be a switch where the audio podcast sponsor money is going to move completely to video, and that's going to be dry land. It's not the case yet. Right now, the sponsors on the audio side are spending a ton of money there, more than they do on YouTube. But I think that will change in the future. just because of the tracking capabilities and the impact of video. You cannot deny it.
The tracking capabilities are great though with audio, because you just type in promo code Axel 2025. You know what I mean? And
But I can have different ad placement with video on video.
But I like with audio that you can dynamically place the ads after the episode's been recorded.
That is amazing.
Right?
With your sponsors, yes.
And if you could dynamically place them on YouTube as well, when they do dynamic placement on YouTube in video, that's now we're having a different conversation.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that YouTube wants to control that revenue. So YouTube allows you to do dynamic ad placement of the ads that they sell.
I'm on about of the ads that they sell. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But I'm on about of our ads.
I don't think they will ever give you that. Yeah. Because remember, YouTube gets 30 cents on the dollar of every AdSense spend. So why would they give you that?
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, I understand completely, but it's just an interesting game. It depends how they want to play it.
Yeah. How do you feel about all the social medias and YouTube, and have you experienced any censorship or any issues with that, or
not so much censorship? I think I've just got to get better at content to be able to cut through the noise. I don't believe in all these shadow bans and all this stuff. I think it's all created in your mind to give you an excuse as to why your content's not doing as well as it should be. Well, the reason is because it's not good enough. So I need to improve the content. I need to get better. I need to get 1,000 times better than I am this year, next year, and from this next 12 months to get anywhere close to where I want to get to. Have to. That's it. That's the way I see everything now. It's like I just got to get better. I've got to get better. There's something I don't know right now. Yeah.
There's definitely a lot of things you can do in the back end to improve. There's a lot of A/B testing that we do. We spend so much time on Tom's show maximizing every single piece of what you can control. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to the conversation.
Yeah.
I can feel it. Like I would have a shoot, and the same happens with my podcast, not equally. With my podcast, because
when you're producing someone else's show, you feel it differently.
When you are at different scales of subscribers, it's a different game. So right now, in your level and in my level, you're way ahead of me, but you're still under a subcategory of scale that the quality of your episode is not as relevant yet, because you don't have the scale. You see that play out more in a big channel like Impact Theory, because we do have the numbers. So when the episode comes out, it goes out to a large sample of people, and that's where the quality of the conversation, and you need alignment of thumbnail, headline, the guest, the themes, the opening question, and there's like this sequence. All of that, when it works well, depending on what is happening in the ecosystem with the algorithm, and if the conversation is good, then it blows up. And there I can place bets and feel confident about that conversation was not relevant. It didn't feel like relevant, so it won't do as well. But on a small channel like us, the sample set is so small. More in my case for my podcast, like I could have a great episode. If that guest doesn't have a multitude of points of contacts in the algorithm by being on other shows, it won't click. And that happened with my interview with Justin. That was the one that break through for my channel. But then all my other interviews, they gain very little views, even though this interview is blowing up. And I think I had a combination with him being a very hot person, but also our interview was very interesting because I saw other channels that were like triple my size, and my interview with Justin is like double or triple their numbers. And it's just because of the dynamic in the conversation. Yeah. So every now and then that makes a huge difference. But when you're small, having the big name guest is going to do such a huge pull.
Going to propel you,
Yeah.
For sure, mate. I agree.
What about for you? Can you gauge like when an interview Like you love it and you're like, I can predict like this many views in a week or 2 weeks?
I don't think you can predict anything. I really don't. I think it all comes down to like literally just interview people that you resonate with.
Yeah,
that's all I do.
that's interesting. For us, no, we do the whole. We have metrics and we strategize and we have like our numbers.
And this is what I need to get better at. So
I don't think you should. I think because you are the person doing the interview, you are doing the right thing. You're focusing on the guest and you're focusing on having the good conversation.
yeah, I'm not. I realize as you scale, things have to change.
Yeah.
I think I need a combination right now where I'm at, where I need to book bigger guests, bigger names, and be interested in what they're talking about and have the right conversations with them to get the most out of it. Yeah. It's like it's a multifaceted game.
It is.
No one's ever gonna have all the game right. You know what I'm saying? It's a very multifaceted game.
Yeah. Well, frankly, this has been an amazing time talking to you, man. This was way more interesting than I ever thought I could make this interview. So
no, mate, I appreciate your time, and I just want to say, like, congratulations on all the success that you're having. You changed your life by changing your location, and I'd urge every single one of you that listens to this podcast, listens to this episode, to, if you want to change your life in the fastest way now, just change your location.
For sure. Awesome, man.